Welcome, wisdom seekers, to Mother Knowledge. Tonight, we grapple with one of humanity's most dangerous and compelling assertions. I can do anything for human betterment. It sounds noble, doesn't it? A pursuit of the greater good. But what if that anything includes a heinous act? What if it means stepping outside the very moral boundaries that define us?
That's the chilling question at the heart of Fyodor Dostoevsky's timeless masterpiece, Crime and Punishment. It's a novel that delves not just into the act of a crime, but into the profound, inescapable consequences that ripple through the human soul. It forces us to ask, is it ever truly possible to escape the judgment of one's own conscience?
And that's our journey today. We'll explore the tormented mind of Rodion Raskolnikov, a character whose intellectual pride leads him down a terrifying path, believing he can redefine morality for the sake of a perceived higher purpose.
To truly understand Raskolnikov, we first need to understand his theory, the intellectual scaffolding he built to justify the unthinkable. He's a brilliant but impoverished and disillusioned student in 19th century St. Petersburg. He publishes an article outlining his controversial idea that there are two types of men.
The ordinary and the extraordinary?
Precisely. The ordinary men are the conventional ones, bound by moral laws, existing merely to reproduce and maintain the species. But the extraordinary men, the true visionaries, the Napoleons, the great reformers, they have a right, even a duty, to transgress existing laws, to shed blood if necessary, if their actions will lead to a new, better order for humanity.
So, for Raskolnikov, morality isn't absolute. It's a tool, a means to an end. If that end is human betterment, then the means can be flexible. This sounds disturbingly utilitarian.
It absolutely is. And he takes it to its logical extreme. He sees a cruel old pawnbroker, Alyona Ivanovna, a seemingly useless, even harmful individual who exploits the poor. Raskolnikov convinces himself that by eliminating her and taking her money, he could use it for 1,000 good deeds, saving families, starting a new life, ultimately contributing to the betterment of humanity. He even sees it as a public service.
He literally believes he's purging a parasite for the greater good. What a terrifying intellectualization of violence. And then he acts on it.
He does. And Dostoevsky doesn't shy away from the brutal, messy reality of the act itself. It's not glorious or heroic. It's panicked, sloppy, and compounded by an unforeseen second murder. This isn't just a philosophical exercise. It's a visceral, human act of violence.
So, the crime is committed. Raskolnikov has proven his extraordinary status, or so he believes. He's crossed the line. The money is there. Now he can begin his great work of betterment. But that's not what happens, is it?
Far from it. This is where Dostoevsky's true genius shines, because the novel's title isn't just The Crime, it's Crime and Punishment. And the real punishment for Raskolnikov begins not with the arrival of the police, but immediately after the axe falls.
The internal punishment.
Exactly. His carefully constructed intellectual theory shatters. Instead of liberation, he finds himself plunged into a hell of crushing guilt, overwhelming paranoia, feverish delirium, and profound isolation. His mind, once his greatest asset, becomes his greatest tormentor. He can barely stand the sight of other people. The thought of his deed is constantly with him, tainting every interaction.
He becomes a prisoner of his own mind, unable to connect with anyone. The very betterment he sought seems to have brought about his own complete psychological destruction.
He is utterly alone, haunted by the specter of his act. Dostoevsky vividly portrays his physical and mental breakdown. He oscillates between fever dreams, obsessive replays of the crime, and desperate attempts to rationalize or forget. He is, in essence, punishing himself far more effectively than any external court ever could.
And then we have the brilliant psychological chess match between Raskolnikov and Porfiry Petrovich. Porfiry doesn't need physical evidence. He understands Raskolnikov's mind.
Porfiry is a master psychologist. He knows Raskolnikov's article. He understands the kind of intellectual arrogance that could lead to such a crime. He uses subtle probing, tantalizing hints, and a relentless psychological pressure that slowly but surely corners Raskolnikov. The legal pursuit becomes a proxy for Raskolnikov's internal struggle with his own conscience.
It's fascinating how Porfiry's pursuit isn't about physical capture initially, but about breaking Raskolnikov's will, forcing him to confront his truth.
He effectively tells Raskolnikov, "You are your own worst judge. Confess, not for my sake, but for your own salvation." The irony is profound. Raskolnikov thought he was rising above human morality, but his punishment is precisely that he cannot escape being human with a human conscience.
So, trapped in this psychological prison, is there any way out for Raskolnikov? Is there a path to redemption after such a profound transgression?
This is where Dostoevsky introduces the character of Sonia Marmeladova, a young woman forced into prostitution to support her family, yet possessing an unwavering, almost saintly spiritual purity and compassion. She embodies humility, selfless love, and a deep, unshakable faith.
Sonia, who has suffered so much, becomes the unlikely guide for Raskolnikov.
Yes, she represents the opposite of everything Raskolnikov believes in. He relies on rational thought and intellectual pride. She lives by faith, empathy, and suffering. It is through Sonia's unconditional love and her quiet insistence on spiritual truth that Raskolnikov is finally shown a way out of his torment. She encourages him to embrace suffering, to confess, and to seek forgiveness.
It's not an easy path. It requires Raskolnikov to abandon his cherished theory, his intellectual arrogance, and embrace something he previously scorned: humility.
It demands a complete spiritual rebirth. He has to confess publicly, embrace the suffering of prison, and only then, in the very depths of his despair and physical hardship, does he begin to experience genuine repentance and the possibility of spiritual healing. The novel implies that true human betterment isn't achieved through intellectual superiority or violent acts, but through compassion, humility, and acknowledging our shared humanity and our need for grace.
Crime and Punishment, then, is more than a thrilling detective story. It's a profound ethical and psychological treatise. What larger messages does Dostoevsky leave us with?
Dostoevsky fundamentally challenges the idea that human reason alone can dictate morality. Raskolnikov's theory, born of intellect, proves disastrous. The novel argues for the supremacy of conscience, for the innate moral law within us, and for the redemptive power of suffering and faith. It suggests that true human betterment isn't achieved through intellectual superiority or violent acts, but through compassion, humility, and acknowledging our shared humanity and our need for grace.
A chilling yet ultimately hopeful masterpiece. Thank you for guiding us through the depths of Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment and its haunting truths.
My pleasure. It's a book that continues to resonate because it confronts questions that humanity perpetually grapples with.
And thank you, our cherished listeners, for joining us on this profound journey into the human soul. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking knowledge. Until next time, stay wise and wonderful.